Welcome to Ask GMBN, the weekly show where we look at all of your mountain biking questions that we found in the comments below the video on the hashtag AskGMBN and on email, ask@gmbn.com. So, should we get into a question, Neil, and see if you know the answer?
Yeah, hit me.
Let's do it. Right, first question is from Jaden Siegel. He says, how do I prevent slamming my derailleur on trees when riding on fast, skinny trails?
Yeah, probably the main cause of snapping off rear mechs and their hangers. I would say sometimes it comes down to actually using a bit of technique to try and avoid them. I think you get used to sort of knowing where your rear mech is, so I'm always trying to pick up my back wheel if I know I'm going to get close to a rock. Yeah. So there's definitely a bit of technique there, like the bunny hop, the last part of the bunny hop, just to sort of pick your back wheel up and get out of the way. But yeah, you do have to be careful about sort of rocks and things like that.
Yeah, I'd add that, you know, like unweighting the back wheel is such a cool skill to learn, because once you can start moving that back end around, then you definitely won't be getting into any more trouble with hitting derailleurs and smashing your wheel to bits.
It's not a good thing to do. Obviously, it can damage your rear wheel as well.
Yes.
Colby Perry is asking, does anyone run a 650B Plus on a downhill bike?
Okay, so it's 27.5 size wheel, but with a plus tyre on it, larger rim. I don't think they do they?
No, not as far as I'm aware. No. What you find is with those tyres, they have to be quite thin to keep the weights down, so it's not going to stand up to the abuse you have to put a downhill bike tyre through. However, we are seeing people like Maxxis coming up with this. I don't know what they're calling it, but they're quite big. They're 2.6 and 2.5s, but they're fatter. They're not quite plus, but they're definitely chunky tyres. I think you might see them on downhill bikes soon enough.
Yeah, and you've ridden Plus quite a lot. You really enjoy it.
Yeah, but only in the right situation. I think, yeah, definitely on those big rocky downhills, they're probably not up to the job.
Yeah, I can't see anyone going down Fort William on a Plus tyre myself.
Oh, we said that about 29ers.
Yeah, well, there you go. And that's one thing, is like talking about these plus sizes, 29ers, 27.5. It's all up in the air, isn't it? I don't feel like we've settled into anything, and maybe we never will. So who's to say we won't see a plus tyre? It's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, another question here from Seth Sarub says, what type of bike would be good for street, dirt jumps and trails?
Well, I think hardtail stands
Yeah,
out
that's
to
what
me.
I'd say, yeah, hardtail bike.
Great all-round bikes, definitely for dirt jumps, hardtail's the best. Trials?
Yeah, I mean, trials, you can ride trials on any bike. I mean, rigid rear end does make a lot of difference. It makes it a lot easier because you're not compensating for the suspension, taking the energy out of your movements. But I mean, yeah, dirt jump, you want to start thinking about a bike a bit more suited to it, because obviously it's going through quite a lot of impact a lot of the time. And if you get things wrong, like spanning across the landing of a casing it, then you can start stretching the front end out.
Yeah, you want something strong for that, don't you?
Yeah.
A cyclist, have you guys been professionally fitted to your mountain bikes?
Never. I've never had that.
I was going to say that's one thing that doesn't come across from road cycling, where it's probably more common, well, definitely more common, but do most people? A lot of people do on road bike.
Yeah.
Mountain bike, no, you just sort of get used to the size of the bike you need, and then it's a case of just tweaking things to fit. Maybe with a cross-country bike that you're going to ride for a long time, you could think about it, but personally, no.
No, I mean, it's one of the things that I've always had through my career, because I started in trials, was riding quite a small bike. And then when I went over onto proper mountain bikes and riding full suspension and things like that, I always rode a very small frame, because I was just really used to being able to flick the bike around. So I think when it comes to mountain biking, a lot of the time creativity comes into it, especially with dirt jumps and free riding and trials. And that's when you want the bike to fit your style and your creativity. So,
however, we've seen recent sort of trend is people buying bikes that are too big, because we're getting bikes getting much longer. And people like that because it makes a more stable bike. I'm not totally sold on that. I think I'm more down your line, Martin, of having a nice, smallish bike that I can throw around.
Yeah, yeah. That said, my Sender, my Canyon Sender, is very big, and it is plush.
It is very stable, isn't it?
Plush. Yeah.
Mike Fenster, how does a protected rider seeding work for the World Cup, so downhill World Cup, for round 2? Is it based solely off of the Lord's results, or does it still take into account last year's overall? We'd be interested in if some top riders miss qualification due to mechanical or crash. So should we explain the protected thing first? Basically, if you're top 20 in the World Cup overall, then if something goes wrong in the qualifier, you get put through automatically. If you're outside of protection, let's say you have a puncture, you've got to be in the top 80 to qualify for the main race.
Oh, so last week's round, it was last week, Lords.
Yeah.
It all went wrong for a lot of the top riders.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot of them missed the top 20.
Yeah, so there'll be people like, who can I think of? Well, Aaron Gwynn for one, Bruni. Yeah, they won't be protected.
I think maybe only G. Atherton was really the big name who didn't miss the top 20. No. So it's going to, those guys are in for some serious stress at Fort William. It's a good question.
That, and it kind of builds. So it is only the top 20 from last week in the overall. So if someone like Bruni gets a puncture in qualifying next week, or the next round, should I say, then it can mess up the whole season. So.
Yeah. Wow. And there's points for qualifying as well. Yeah. So I mean, it's all happening. It's a good question. Times. Yeah, it's good to think about. Okay, next question is from Eric Rybasic, and he says, if you had volume spacer tokens to your fork, if you add them, should you also add them to the rear shock, or are these independent choices?
I would kind of say yes, you probably should. However, it's not quite as simple as that because it depends on your bike. Some bikes, the actual design of the actual suspension system will be more progressive, whereas some may be more linear. So it is sort of an independent decision actually, because you might want to make your fork more progressive, but your rear shock might already be progressive. So you don't necessarily have to, but I would try and match them.
Right, okay, so it's probably a yes.
Probably, but not definitely. Is that simple?
That's a tricky one. And while we're on that subject, let's have a look at how to tune your forks with volume spacers, which is a video we made recently.
A lot of modern suspension nowadays, forks and shocks, are actually really easily tweakable by the average home mechanic by changing these spacers. What that does is if you put a bigger air volume spacer in there, it's going to make that fork or shock more progressive. I really like that because I quite like my fork to be really progressive so that when I'm hitting big berms, things like that, I'm not sinking all the way into that travel. I'm actually staying up a little bit higher. So let's have a look at how you actually change those. Okay, Grant Campbell asks, I've been mountain biking for the last 7 months and he's broken 2 collarbones and fractured a rib. What should I do? Is mountain biking just not for me?
No, mountain biking is for you. Injuries do not mean that you're not a good mountain biker. It means you're trying hard. It does say on your post that you think you may be a bit too competitive to take it easy. You know, you're going to progress quickly. Injuries are part of the sport, aren't they? We've all had them.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes they happen more when you're beginning and maybe you're trying to push things on a bit too fast. But yeah, I'm sure you'll get through that phase of breaking yourself every time you ride. So keep with it. Yeah, a bit of caution on some of that stuff. Try not to make the same mistake twice. That really sucks, although I have done that. But yeah, keep going. Don't give up. You're a mountain biker. Exactly. Yeah, and someone said to me once actually about injuries, and I thought this was a really good point. Nice time to mention it is that what you should look at your injuries is like you've paid the price. True. Time to enjoy it. There you go. You bought your entry. Simon Kendrick, is there a massive difference between using a 160mm and 200mm disc brake rotor? Oh, well, I would say, I don't know what your point's going to be on this one, Neil, but I would say yes, because coming from the trials background, I would use a 160 disc on someone else's bike and think, oh my God, that brake doesn't work. Yeah. Because it was so powerful on my trials bike. 203 disc, it was just incredible. There's definitely more power there, but it really makes a difference when they get hot, I think. So on a bigger, heavier bike, it's much better to have that bigger brake. The bigger disc will dissipate the heat much better. So if you had a 160mm rotor on there and rode in the Alps or something like that with a big long descent, it would get red hot and your brake would fade, whereas a 200mm would take longer to get hot. Yeah. I would say. Okay, over to Christian Prevetsky. He says, have you ever met a snake on the trails? A snake? Or some different animals, but snakes are always on the trails in the summer when it's hot. So have you ever met a snake on the trail? I have actually. I've seen an adder, a couple of adders in the UK. Dangerous. We don't get many snakes around here, but yeah, I've definitely seen 2 or 3 over the years. You, Martin? I remember riding, I really hate to say this because I'm a vegan, it's terrible, but I rode over one and killed it. Oh no. And in its death throes, it was very, it was terrible. I felt awful. I felt awful. Was that in the UK? It was near a train station in Newbury in the UK, in Berkshire. Bizarre. Very bizarre. Yeah, very bizarre. And I'm sorry about that snake. I feel bad. Okay, Danny Teodorosi. How much sealant do I have to put in a 26-inch tyre? Well, I don't actually know, to be honest, so I was going to check here, and actually it doesn't say 26 inch, it gives you tyre widths. So from 2 inch to 2.1, it says 80 to 100 millilitres. That goes up to 2.4 to 2.5 is 120 to 150. So I would say anywhere between 80 and 120 mil.
And don't drink it.
Don't drink it. Goes
Don't drink it. Okay, Danny Teodorosi says...
Just done that one.
Oh, you've just done that one, sorry. Carry on.
Justin F, how should I use mountain bike to train for motocross?
Oh, well, this is a good one because I think mixing it up's a good idea.
Yeah.
Motocross requires lots of skills. Mountain bike can help you get those skills. So get out on the trail, do some Enduro and XC for fitness, but also hit some jumps and some skate parks to get some big kicker jumps and things where get you up in the air, get you a bit scared, because that's what motocross is going to do.
Yeah,
I
used to ride motocross.
Yes, loved it.
I used to do quite a lot of both.
Yeah.
And I used to find, actually raced Enduro motocross more than motocross, and I find that with a 3-hour race, the last hour I would just start overtaking people because my fitness from the mountain bike would come across, but I probably didn't quite have the same pure speed as some of those guys on the motorbike. Yeah, both good.
Yeah, mountain biking will help you get great fitness though, for sure.
Okay, Usama Haddad, he's got 2 questions about cross country. First one, he's found some difficulty at the start of the race. Can you show me some exercises to be more explosive at the starts?
Oh, I tell you one's really great is sitting up against a wall with no chair underneath you, building up the quads. Really great. I always used to use that for power exercises. It feels like a stamina exercise, but it really does build power, and it's a really, really useful little exercise you can do anywhere. Definitely
those other gym exercises like squats and deadlifts and plyometrics, you should use that quite a lot. Jumping on top of boxes, that's great for power.
Yes, yeah, plyometrics is amazing for power. It's really hard though, because plyometrics, the timing of plyometrics is a very short time space, so you've really got to make those reactions super, super quick.
And second part, in a technical climb, should I lock out my suspension or not? What are the pros and cons of each?
Well, I would say, really, it's hard to tell unless you've ridden the climb before, because if you just start every climb with a standard, climb, I always lock my suspension out at this point, then you might find halfway up you really wished you hadn't. So I don't think there's a single answer to it, or a standard answer.
True. Definitely on smoother climbs I would, but sometimes if it's a really bumpy climb, it's actually going to be more efficient to actually leave it unlocked so you don't spin up the back wheel on some of those bumps. But yeah, like I say, tough. Try both.
Try both.
And we'll throw you to 3 killer interval workouts so you can get strong and fit for those starts.
Everyone wants to get a little bit faster at riding the mountain bike, but to get faster you need to be fitter as well. And that can take a lot of hard work, dedication and time. But I've got some killer workouts for you that are going to make it a little bit easier for you. Well, it's not going to be easier. They're going to be hard. They're going to be tough. So here are my favorite 3 killer mountain bike workouts.
Okay, it's the quick fire round.
Ethan Privet, when I do a stoppie, my fork-stroke headset makes a big cracking noise. What could it be?
Ooh, tricky one. I'd say it could be broken.
Could be broken.
Yeah.
Could be a bit dusty. Sometimes you just need to clean it and give it grease and that'll fix it.
Clean it out. Gage Hay says turbo trainer or row machine.
Well, both, but I actually use the row machine more.
Yeah, row machine. Let's see what your 2K time is. Go for it. Aaron W, how often should I give my trail bike a full service? Is cleaning the bike after every ride a good idea?
Well, it depends how often you ride it. Obviously, I would clean my bike after every ride, yes, and lube it. And I would give my bike a full service twice a year, probably.
All right, did you hear that, Alfie? That's my son. Did you hear what Neil just said?
Twice a year, strip the whole thing down. Leo Castro, is it normal to get butt cramps doing downhill?
No.
Mountain Biker 308, hey, I'm using one of your maintenance videos for a presentation in my engineering class. Not a question.
That's a statement, but it's good. It's good. Good news.
Jeremy Wolko Frankovic, what do you think requires more skill, Enduro World Series or World Cup downhill? My vote is for EWS. Seems to me downhill doesn't require as much skill these days. With the capabilities of modern bikes, it looks more of a bravery competition. Well, that's true actually. Back in my day, it took much more skill to race downhill.
No.
Does that mean I'm better than like Aaron Gwynn?
No, I do not agree. Sorry, Jeremy, I'm not with you on that one. Thanks for the question. I don't know what Neil thinks.
No, I would say downhill takes more skill.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we've got a video sent in from Nick of him and his friend who've watched the pre-hop video and they want to ask our advice, see if they're doing it right.
Let's have a look, see how they're doing.
So got a little slope.
Yeah, little bump in the trail. Whoa, that's a big hop.
That is biggie. So
2 big hops.
Nick and friends, sorry, we don't know your friend's name. I would try and pick up your front wheel more as well. So you can see your back wheel's going really high. What you're trying to do is trying to get in both wheels at the very top of that downslope to benefit the most in the pre-op. So that it's basically trying to avoid going too fast off a drop and land at the bottom. So try and get the front wheel and the back wheel up.
Yeah, and I would add that make sure that that pre-hop is kind of relative in size and angle to what you're about to enter, the bit of trail you're about to attack.
Yeah.
Because obviously a massive hop into like quite a small little downslope there isn't necessarily going to mean a smoother and a faster ride. So try and match it to the trail, because then you're going to ride in smoothly and keep your speed, gain speed. Yeah. And look amazing.
Good effort though.
Yeah.
Keep sending your videos to ask@gmbn.com and we'll take a look, and hopefully they'll be in next week and we'll give you some advice.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, then why don't you hit the subscribe button, which is just there. You'll get a brand new video every day of the week.
Click over here for a video on a very fast cross-country bike. It's Jenny Rived's Pro Bike Check.
Yeah, and why don't you, while we were talking about it, hit the how to pre-hop video just here, where we can teach you how to keep that speed in the trails.
Give us a thumbs up if you like this video, leave your questions down below and send your videos to ask@gmbn.com.